Welcome to Let's Talk About Everything and Nothing. We're Sophia,
Michelle,
your favorite or soon-to-be favorite ADHD-ridden mass sisters.
Expect deep combos, random tangents, and the occasional existential crisis. Or maybe we'll just talk about snacks.
Either way, we're here, we're talking, and you're stuck with us. So let's get into it. In this powerful episode, we dive into queerness and religion. So how it makes us feel, safe, unsafe, the comfortability of it, being in religion in church, how it potentially affects us and our children, and the emotional turmoil that comes with all that.
So our special guest is going to share her experience growing up in a devout church community and knowing that she was gay the whole time, and just the silence that she felt, the inner conflict that she felt that kind of shaped who she was as a person. Our special guest star is my beautiful wife, Brittany.
Hi, Mama Brett.
We invited her, or I thought it was a good idea to invite her because both me and Sophia didn't grow up in what I would consider like a religious household. Like, we went to church very sporadically. Soph didn't do any of her CCD classes or anything like that. I went to my first communion, and that's kind of about it. My grandmother said the rosary every day, but that was kind of like her deal by herself. She never really involved us. For me, they would tell me to say the rosary when I couldn't go to sleep. So now every time we say the rosary, I get real sleepy. But that's
Oh my God, same.
But Britt is who I consider grew up religious. She grew up in a small community that, the priest came over for dinner and stuff like that. So they were at church often, and her parents were really involved in the church. And her dad's still involved in the church a whole bunch now. So I thought she would kind of bring her perspective a little bit more than what me and Soph could offer you guys. But I will say, though, as a mom, now, I do have concerns with different things. And for me specifically, so I stay at home with our son mostly. Like, I do, other stuff. But I want him to get involved with other kids. Like, he wants friends and things like that. Like, he wants to interact with kids. And I looked into, Mother's Day Out programs, but every single...
Hi, baby.
Yeah. He goes up to kids and just says, "Hi, baby," and he wants to play with them. But I've looked into Mother's Day Out programs, and every single one of them is connected to a church. And I don't mind him getting a religious background. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% familiar with Mother's Day Out programs, so I don't know how much they're going to be talking about religion with the 1-year-old. But for me, it's the adults, right? So if I look queer, if I come drop off my kid, I look like I'm queer. I look it. And are they going to treat him differently because mama is a lesbian? And are they going to be ugly to him because mama's a lesbian? And are they going to tell him ugly things about his mamas because we are who we are? And that's my fear of what could happen. So that's one of the things that I'm sad about for him. And I know with Britt, we've had some other stuff go on with baptisms and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wasn't able to baptize my great nieces or my little cousins because of me being lesbian. I do have all my sacraments in the Catholic Church, besides the marriage part. So that is difficult to navigate, and still, I grew up Catholic and went to church every Sunday, even taught. I was a lecturer and everything like that, and I just was very involved in the church, and it was a big part of my life. It's just very hard to navigate now, especially with my son. I want him to have that type of background because, we've experienced a lot of loss and things like that, and I felt like I turned to religion. And yes, of course, there's other things that he can turn to, but, that's what helped me through those difficult times. And, even still to this day it does. And I don't know how to teach him differently. And felt when he was going to be born, I struggled a lot with, religion and bringing him up and being afraid of what to do with him. We're not going to be able to take him to catechism to teach so that he can learn more about God, or take him to, Sunday school or whatever we end up in. I just felt like I just struggled a lot with that because I feel like he's going to have a different upbringing than mine as far as, something spiritual to look up to. Of course, I can teach him, but I can't teach him as much as I learned myself, if that makes sense.
100%.
That does make sense. And I mean, obviously it's different for y'all because y'all have Luca, and you know, rightfully so, like the concern of like taking him to like a Mother's Day program or like wanting him to be involved in the church and not sure how they would treat him, and then y'all in general. But I know like y'all's big concern is how he would be treated and how he would fit with that. Like whereas for me, it's just like the comfortability of being in religious spaces. Just as a quick example, I went to a wedding not too long ago, and it was the ceremony was in a church, a Catholic church, and you know I was already nervous about that because obviously I look like I am a lesbian. I look gay, so you know I was, and not. Yes, it's uncomfortable for me, but also like my biggest thing with a lot of things is I don't want other people to feel uncomfortable because of me, because then that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, for you it's the reaction of other people.
Yeah. So you know, things like that, and even like not just that church like that I've never been to in my entire life before, but like churches that I have gone to that I have been previously before I looked obviously lesbian. I, you know, going to them now, or you know, since I look more masculine presenting, it's definitely uncomfortable. You know, whether I'm with, you know, just me and my wife, or even when I went with mom and grandma, you know, like it was just uncomfortable because I could tell people were uncomfortable.
Yeah, people don't expect gay people to go to church.
Exactly, yeah. And so that always makes me not want to go to places. And it just, in general, I think just big churches too give me anxiety to lots of people, but like that extra layer of like being gay.
Do you feel like you're the outsider in the church?
100%.
Do you think it's just the gay thing, or you think it's you as a person?
I think because we weren't raised super religious. I you know, Michelle said, by the time I got around, like I was baptized and that's it. You know, I didn't do anything else. So like we weren't the going to church every Sunday, and we weren't even really the holiday church people either. So like when I say we were Catholic light, we were like Catholic light, like.
Yeah, like we prayed the rosary.
Yeah.
And we had,
you know,
Virgin Mary candles.
Yeah, you know, like I definitely do think that where I'm at religion-wise also makes me an outsider, as I'm not religious enough. And then also I'm gay.
Yeah.
Which makes it, even if I wanted to be more religious now, it's still uncomfortable.
Have you, because I know Britt, but like have you ever had a experience where you felt specifically excluded from the church, like, oh, you're not supposed to be here? Not just your vague anxiety that you get at places, but like
no one's ever like outwardly said like, nah, gay's got to get out, or even like did a sermon where they're talking about how gay is not okay. You know, like I've never sat in something like that, and I honestly think if that did happen to me personally, I probably would never step into a church again, only because of the person that I am.
And done.
And never again. Thank you.
I will say, you know, and I won't put all the details out there, but I will say that one of the last times I went to a Catholic church, one of the people in charge did not want me to be there, and he showed it, and it was very uncomfortable. But I was there for a family member, so I stayed, and I didn't make a scene, which I don't think, in that context, I don't think I would ever, just because of, I respect the people that go to the church. That was uncomfortable. That made a big impact on how I view certain religious people. I'm not uncomfortable in most churches. Like when we go to non-denominational churches, like I'm not uncomfortable. Is there probably a lot of people there that don't want me to be there? Maybe. I mean, but like I'm not that uncomfortable. I am uncomfortable in a couple Catholic churches. Let's put it that way.
Like Shoreline, when we go there, like I'm not uncomfortable being there, but also like, and it's just because in general, I think as churches for me is because never it happened in a church, but I have had people who are religious blatantly say that, you know, I'm going to hell, you know, this is a sin, you know, it's wrong, blah, 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 blah. And not to categorize everyone who goes to church, because I know not everyone who goes to church feels the same way, but just in general, I do know that there are people there that think that, whether they say it or not. I'm not uncomfortable being at Shoreline or anything like that, as far as like, I don't think someone's going to attack me there or like actually say anything to me. I don't think I would ever feel really accepted, whether they say I am or not. Like, I would feel like, I know there's someone in this church who's like, fucking lesbians.
I feel the same way about Shoreline, because I do feel very, like, uplifted when I'm there. However, being more involved in the church, like, I feel uncomfortable even trying to, like, initiate that, because I don't know if I would be accepted. So I definitely struggled a lot with that, because I feel like, with my son needing to, like, me wanting my son to be closer to God, I feel like we'd have to be a little bit more like, hey, here we are, instead of hiding in the sea of people that are there.
I remember the first time we went to Shoreline, like ever, I introduced myself, because they're like, everyone introduce yourself, right? And to the person next to you, something like that. And I'm like, hi, Michelle, this is my wife, Brittany. Just because, like, I was like, if we're going to be at church, I just want it to be
out there.
And Britt's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just
letting it be known. No question asked if this is my sister or my wife.
Yeah. So we'll get into some of Britt's extra religiousness.
So I grew up in the church. I went to CCD, called Catechism.
Also, Britt comes from a really small town, which I personally think plays into...
Yes,
it's like one stoplight, small town.
Yes, I'm from a very small town. I can't tell you the population, I'm not sure. But yeah, if you need directions, tell us the person you're looking for, not the street name. That's how small it is. I grew up in church. I went to catechism my whole life. I knew for sure I was different around 7 years old. As I got older, like, these feelings got stronger. I knew, because at 7, whatever, like, you're not even looking for, like, a relationship or anything like that, so I'm like, it'll go away. As I got older, I was panicking. Like, we would go to like a retreat or something. Someone would look at me like funny, and I'm like, oh no, God just told them I was gay, and things like that. Like, I was just like panicking all the time about people being like God telling them that I should be shunned or something, that because I was a different person. I just hid it for most of my life. I was 23 when I finally decided to come out. It was very difficult. I had to be in a position where, and it turned out I didn't have to be, but I felt like I had to be in a position to have everyone in my life just kind of shut me out. And I wanted to be in a spot that I was ready for. And so I tried to prep myself, I guess. My processing is think of the worst case scenario.
Yes, that is how she processes things.
And go with that. And so I did that. I mean, of course, the worst case scenario didn't happen. So anyways, growing up in the church was very difficult because I was just always real paranoid all the time. Like, someone's gonna, find me out, or, someone's gonna notice. And of course that didn't happen. I ended up having to say it myself. And some people it made more sense. Some people it was like, what? But yeah, I did date boys and everything to try to like heal myself. I would definitely pray over myself all the time to try to like fix myself and
pray the gay away.
Yeah, pray the gay away and try to figure out how to navigate being who everyone else wanted me to be and still like have a relationship with God. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, is what I've learned.
I have a question, and not to interrupt you, but because the thought crossed my mind when I was younger too. Like I said, we weren't super religious, but there was a point where I was like, man, I know this isn't normal. So Lord, if you're listening, make it stop. And there was a point where, I was like, damn, is he not listening because I'm gay? Like, did you ever feel like
Yes.
your prayers weren't being answered because you just couldn't be saved because you were gay?
Yes. I did feel like I wasn't being fully heard because I was gay. And, you know, even like when I was old, I mean, I was 23 when I came out, and it was because I did fall in love with someone. And
Not me.
Not Michelle.
and I was like, you know, why should I be deprived of love? You know, basically the hell with everything else. And that's kind of what happened. And I did struggle with my faith and my religion. And I mean, definitely my religion, but I definitely struggled with my faith a lot. Then just one day I didn't, and I felt closer, and I felt like I was being heard again, and I felt like I was never abandoned. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I don't know.
For me, I couldn't tell you why I learned, like, at a younger age, like, being gay wasn't normal or wasn't okay. Like, definitely being gay wasn't okay. Like, you know, the gay guys got made fun of in the family. Like, to my knowledge, there wasn't gay guys in our family, but the guys in our family made fun of gay people that they saw. And they joked about it, and, you know, all the slurs and things like that. But I couldn't tell you, like, no one ever, like, said, oh, gay people are bad. They just, like, made all these jokes. Like, did anyone, because I know your dad, and I know kind of, not just your dad, but, like, the area you grew up in, like, what was that like when they're talking basically crap about gay people? Like,
it was just something that I got used to, and it wasn't even like the area I was from. It was mostly my family, the men in my family that would just, like, you know, blurt out racial slurs. And I didn't really notice it per se when I was a child, but I did notice it, like, as I got older, that, you know, wow, like, these people do talk a lot of, you know, stuff about gays, and, like, you know, and so I think that's what made me more afraid to come out. I wouldn't say, like, in church they talked about it much. They did one time, and I'm not sure. I think they thought that someone else was gay or something.
Damn.
They didn't really ever say much about it. It was just a unspoken, like, no, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that I recall. I'm not sure. Of course, I was, like, drowning with anxiety, so they could have talked about it, and I just shut it out.
There was a whole sermon on it, but just blacked out.
This is so shady in the corner.
I blacked out.
Because same.
So you said that you dated boys to, like, try to heal yourself. Did you ever date someone just because you're just trying to prove that you were like everybody else? Like, to everybody else, not to yourself, but, like, to everybody else.
No, I mean, I didn't really date a lot of boys. I was, you know, here and there.
I will say, Britt didn't know so many people were in love with her, like, her whole life. People from, you know, her early, you know, teenage years or what have you. And even when I met her, like, we met at, we worked at a retail store, and I think all the guys except for one, Juwan.
Shout out to Juwan.
Was in love with her, and, like, she just didn't realize how many people were in love with her.
I mean, I'm not gonna assume until you tell me.
But, hey, Mom Britt said, say it with your chest.
The one guy at Bromwork did tell me straight up, and I was like, oh, I had no idea.
But yeah, I knew they were following around like a little puppy dog. Anyway, but you found your peace with your religion now.
Not really. I do still struggle with it, especially with Luca being so small.
I mean, do you struggle with it because you're gay, or you struggle with it because, I guess, let me rephrase the question. So, like, I may not be a religious person, but I know of the God that I've been taught about, that I'm the type of person that God would like. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I don't have a temper and I can't be petty and I can't be ugly, because I can be. But I'm saying is, overall as a person, I'm a good person. And I help people and I love people. And, you know, I help all my nieces and nephews as much as I can. Not financially, because, you know, but, you know, being there for them physically, emotionally. You know, I try to be there for my wife as much as possible, for my sister as much as possible, for my friends as much as possible. Like, I'm a good person. I'm a type of person that I would consider God would want me to be. And so for that side of it, I don't struggle with my queerness and religion. I struggle with my queerness and religion is because of other people and their thoughts about my queerness and religion. But my inner connection with how I see myself as a child of God, as somebody who has the good values and good morals, that I don't struggle with. So I guess that's where I'm more of asking you. Is yours like because you felt a certain way growing up because gay was bad and you wanted to pray the gay away? Or is it because we're not accepted in church?
I think it is because we're not accepted. And I feel like there is, like, being more involved means, like, there's a deeper knowing of God and religion and things like that, and having, like, deeper faith, in my opinion. And I think that I struggle with that part of not being accepted so that I can know more about God. And, you know, so I can teach my children.
So I guess you would say that where you are as far as religion, and as far as religion goes, you aren't in the place where you want to be, but faith-wise, would you say that you are? Because I do think faith and religion are two separate things.
Yes, I definitely think that I have a lot of faith, but I definitely feel like I struggle with religion. And again, that's because of mostly other people, not really necessarily God.
Like your relationship with God, you feel like is good.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah, for the most part, yes. I think I still question and get angry just because this is the way the world is, I guess. I just struggle.
I think the way with the world is right now, I think a lot of people might be feeling that way. And, you know, I'll be honest, not just the gay thing, but like in general, like I do believe I as far as my faith and my relationship with God, I do think we're on like an okay path, me and him or her, you know. But there was some points in my life with the losses that we've had that, you know, I did question a lot of my faith in that aspect. And it was actually because of the book you made me read, The Shack, or Shack. I don't know if it's called The Shack or Shack. But that really did change my perspective on things, and healed me a little bit, in ways that I didn't think that one I needed to or could be healed. And I always think about you, and I think about that. I'm getting ready about to cry. If you've never read the book, I'm about to spoil it, so turn away. But essentially, the guy's daughter gets kidnapped and by a predator, and she was sexually assaulted and killed. And so he loses like all faith in God. And anyway, so in the book, like he meets God and you know all of these the three ghosts and everything like that. And one of the questions he asked, he's like, you know, if you're real and you're here, like how could you have let this happen to my daughter? You know, like how could you have let this happen to someone so innocent? And God's response was that you know, I don't control like what you think I control. Like I don't control everything. Like that's not what I do. But I do want you to know that I never left her side the whole time. So she was never alone. And then I took her with me. So she was safe. And that part of the book was just like, God, you know, like that. I feel like we, at least before, I was thinking like, you were making these decisions. You did this, you know, you did that. You took my mom. You took my grandma. You took this person and that person. But I think after reading that book that you told me to read, it really made me think like, I don't think God is like making these choices and doing these things. I think God is taking them in as we are taking it in, and they're just with the people we love as they leave us. Yeah. And that's just the only solace that we can have, unfortunately. But yeah, I just want to say thanks. That completely changed my my feelings and how I was viewing God and faith at that time. So
I don't remember recommending that book, but I do remember the book.
I will say, like, on the same, like, grain of that thought process, like, God is not all controlling, but, like, whenever I say prayers for things, like, I don't say, oh, God, please give me, for example, please give me $100,000, like, because I know that's just ridiculous. I said, but, please, God, please help me find a path to make, my life better for me and my family. Please help me figure out what I'm doing so I can get a good job, or I can, start up a good business that will help me and my family, not just financially, because in 15 years in retail, it's not just financially. Like, I need something to help me overall. And so I think that's the same way. It's like, it's not just all overseeing. It's just, please just be with me while I make these decisions that impact my life and impact my family. Okay, so as far as religion, like, what would you want, I guess, for example, like, what would you tell little Brittany at 7 years old now about religion and gayness?
I don't know, because I feel like we have to grow through our experiences. And I feel like, I will tell her that it's going to be okay, that to try to be as honest as you can. However, I don't know that I would have been until I experienced what I did in my 20s. Like, loving someone else, because the whole time I thought something was wrong with me, like, not necessarily like the religion part of it. I mean, I guess I'll tell her, there's nothing wrong with you. You're enough. And that's also something I tell little Brittany now. Like, I have to look in the mirror and say, you are enough. You are worthy. And, that was something that engraved in my little brain that still plays out to this day, I still get anxiety about approval and things like that. And so I would tell Brittany that you're enough and you are whole. And
I say this often, but, like, she's literally the best person I've ever known. Like, she is the epitome of a good person. Like, and I'm not just saying that because she's my wife, but, like, she is the epitome of a good person.
Sure.
She's very caring about so many people. And it is a depiction of what her mother instilled in her. And also that she's just grown into. She's the best person in the world.
Mom Britt, thanks for popping up.
yeah,
We appreciate your time and energy.
thanks for having me.
But just a message for everybody out there who is gay and struggling with it. Like, by all means, we don't know everything. I don't know everything. Britt doesn't know everything. But, like, if you're a good person, then God loves you. And, like, that is truly what matters. It's not about the man-made religion. It's about who you are as a person. If you're morally good, if you care about people, take that to heart. Don't worry about the people in church. I'm not saying don't go to church, but I'm just saying, like, it's not just the building. It's how you feel all day, every day. That's just my opinion of that. If you ever need anything, let us know. All right.
And somehow we've reached the end of another episode of Let's Talk About Everything and Nothing.
If you had fun, hit that follow button, leave a review, and follow us on TikTok and Insta. But if you got distracted halfway through, no worries. Same.
We'll be back next time with more thoughts, more distractions, and probably actually no real conclusions. But thanks so much, guys, and see you later.